When I first moved to Chicago after my divorce, I thought my life was already written. At 46, I had settled into the idea that romance belonged to younger women, that my days of being truly desired were behind me. My daughter was in college, my career as a marketing consultant kept me busy, and I had a small but warm apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. I filled my days with work, yoga, book clubs, and the occasional dinner with friends, telling myself I was content. But deep down, I missed being seen. I missed the rush of someone's gaze lingering just a little too long, the spark that made ordinary days feel alive. Still, whenever I glanced at the younger women around me, sleek hair, wrinkle-free skin, bodies untouched by time, I reminded myself those days were over. Then I met Ethan. It happened at a networking event downtown in a glass-walled office tower. The room buzzed with conversation, people holding wine glasses and exchanging business cards. I had almost skipped it, but my colleague insisted I go to keep connections alive. I was scanning the room for familiar faces when a voice behind me said, "You must be new here. I'd remember meeting you." I turned and saw him, tall, broad-shouldered, with sandy hair and eyes the color of storm clouds. He couldn't have been more than 32. He had the kind of presence that made you straighten your posture without realizing it. "I've been around for a while, actually," I replied, smiling politely. He tilted his head, studying me in a way that was both curious and disarming. "Then how did I miss you?" I laughed, brushing it off, but something in his tone lingered. He introduced himself as Ethan Parker, a rising star in a tech firm. Over the next hour, we talked more than I expected. About work, about Chicago winters, about travel. He had an easy charm, the kind that draws you in without effort. When the event wound down, he asked if I'd like to grab coffee sometime. I hesitated. I knew his type. Young, ambitious, flirtatious. The kind who saw me as a novelty, not a possibility. Still, I surprised myself by giving him my number. 2 days later, we met at a cafe near Millennium Park. I wore a soft navy sweater and my favorite boots, trying not to overthink it. Ethan arrived with his sleeves rolled up, carrying an energy that made heads turn when he entered. We sat by the window, talking for hours, laughter bubbling up between us. I felt lighter than I had in years. But just as I was starting to think this might be something real, he leaned back in his chair, gave me that storm gray stare and said it. "You know, you're amazing. Honestly, if you were younger, I'd probably be falling for you already." The words hit like a slap. My smile froze, my stomach tightened, and I fought the urge to leave right then. Instead, I sipped my latte and nodded as if his comment didn't cut through me like glass. Too old. That's what he saw when he looked at me. Not my laugh, not my wit, not the spark I felt sitting there. Just my age, like a red flag wrapped around my shoulders. When we parted, he hugged me warmly, but the sting remained. That night, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, I studied every line, every shadow, every strand of silver that had escaped my last coloring. His words replayed again and again. "If you were younger." I told myself I wouldn't answer when he texted. But I did. And I answered the next time too. Something about Ethan was magnetic, even when I wanted to push him away. He had a way of making me laugh in the middle of a workday, of remembering little things I'd mentioned, like the novel I was reading or the restaurant I wanted to try. Slowly, despite my better judgment, he became a part of my life. Weeks passed, and we fell into an easy rhythm. Dinners, long walks along the lakefront, Sunday afternoons at the Art Institute. Every time, I reminded myself he wasn't serious, that I was only a distraction for him. And every time, my heart betrayed me by hoping for more. One night in late autumn, we went to a rooftop bar overlooking the city. The air was crisp, the skyline glittered, and a jazz trio played softly inside. We stood by the railing, sipping wine. I wrapped my scarf tighter, shivering slightly, when Ethan leaned closer. "You're beautiful, you know that?" he said, his voice low. I turned to look at him, searching for mockery, but his gaze was steady. "You don't have to say that," I murmured. "I'm not saying it because I have to," he replied, moving closer until I could feel the warmth of him despite the cold. My heart raced. For a moment, the world faded, the city, the music, the doubts. He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from my face, and let his fingers linger on my cheek. It was then I realized he was fighting something too. Later, as we walked back to his car, he admitted softly, I didn't expect this. You make me feel things I didn't think I would. But still, the shadow of his earlier words haunted me. Too old. No matter how close he pulled me, I feared that thought lingered in the back of his mind. The turning point came one evening in December. We had gone ice skating at Millennium Park. I hadn't skated in years, and I was awkward at first, laughing at my own clumsiness while Ethan glided effortlessly. He teased me, reaching out to steady me when I wobbled. At one point, I lost balance completely and fell against him, both of us laughing so hard we nearly toppled together. When we finally sat on a bench, breathless and rosy-cheeked, he looked at me in a way that silenced the world around us. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" he asked. I shook my head, afraid of the answer. "I see someone who makes life brighter. Who knows who she is? Who doesn't play games? Someone who challenges me, excites me, drives me a little crazy. I don't care how old you are. I care that it's you." Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. For the first time I believed him. And from that night on, something shifted. Ethan stopped mentioning age altogether. Instead, he pursued me with a fervor I hadn't expected. He wanted to see me every chance he could, sending flowers to my office, surprising me with tickets to plays, cooking me dinner in his apartment while music played softly in the background. He introduced me to his friends, who, to my shock, welcomed me warmly. Still, I wrestled with insecurity. When we walked into restaurants, I imagined people whispering, "Why is he with her?" When a waitress flirted with him, I braced myself for the day he'd realize he wanted someone younger. But Ethan seemed oblivious to anyone else. His attention was laser-focused on me, as though I were the only woman in the room. One snowy night, as we strolled hand-in-hand along Michigan Avenue with Christmas lights glowing above us, I finally asked, "Why me, Ethan? You could be with anyone. Why choose someone who's older?" He stopped walking, turning me to face him. "Because you're not just someone older. You're you. And I can't get enough of you." His hand slid gently to my waist as he whispered, "I thought age mattered. I was wrong. What matters is how you make me feel. And the truth is I can't keep my hands, or my heart, away from you." In that moment, the last of my doubts melted. The months that followed were some of the happiest of my life. I stopped hiding behind scarves and long sleeves. I stopped apologizing for my laugh lines and silver hairs. Instead, I wore them like badges of a life fully lived. Ethan adored me not despite my years, but because of everything they made me.